Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Michael Gale, author of The Digital Helix. Michael, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's a good conversation because the whole book publishing business is undergoing an amazing revolution right now.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think the first thing to do is to close your eyes and imagine the type of individual reading that book and what they're trying to get out of it in less than 3 minutes. I think if you can close your eyes and build that picture, it gives you a central compass for how you design it, how you write it, and then frankly, how you set your logical and realistic expectations about what you should get out of it.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I think there's two parts. I think one is being incredibly honest about what you have and who it's valuable to. I think secondly, think of it like a big funnel. You know, do you go with one of the really big guys, give up a lot of money, pay a lot of cash, and hope to build a bestseller and hope that that finds a market for you? Or do you really get down to that sort of niche process of saying, look, my target market may only be 10,000 people or 20,000 people. What's the most efficient way of getting my ideas in front of them to be successful? And being able to, I think, separate out ego of the desire to be on a bestseller list from, the practicality of reaching your audience and changing their lives is a really important discourse to go through either with friends or a publisher or just frankly, even in your own mind.
Excellent. Let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
So I think there are a couple that are actually by accident and hopefully more by plan are useful. I think the first thing is if you are working to the corporate environment, think really hard and positively about doing some large corporate deals. We did one or two with some very big tech companies where they actually gave the book away to really senior individuals. Now, I don't know if it drove business immediately, but since that sort of osmosis of the book into that marketplace, we've had an enormous number of calls and inquiries and increased credibility because people have said, oh yeah, I read your book. Oh yeah, somebody gave me this book. It's really good ideas. Can we talk? So I think trying to find a sort of large singles or multiple audience distribution model is a really good idea. And some people don't like it, but it's a really intelligent investment. I think secondly, there are clearly ways to optimize presence of the book socially, particularly on Amazon. Be wary of some of these buy presence models. They just don't work, and the publisher suggested them. We tried it, didn't work. But anybody that can sort of generate natural organic energy on Amazon wins. Very few people turn up to physical bookstores anymore. And at 11 o'clock at night, if something pops up, if you can go to Amazon and you have really good ratings and there's a sort of natural organic sense of positivity, it's incredibly valuable. And the third thing is, I think if you really believe in your book and you truly feel it has impact, that Wall Street Journal, that whole New York Times bestseller thing is absolutely something worth investing in. It just takes some careful management and some significant capital, well-timed for it to work. Because you get one shot at it, it's not how many issues you sell every year, it's what you sell in 2 weeks. And that does require really serious focus in order to make it happen. But there's lots of ways of building highly profitable, effective marketing, but don't have an appetite that's far greater than your budget. I think that's where a lot of failure happens. People try things that are way outside their budget or their target group, and it goes really badly wrong, not because of the intent, but really because of the design and the range of budget you need to do things right.
Well, one thing I'd like to take a little deeper dive into, you talked about doing large corporate deals with your book. Can you give us a little more information about that process?
Yeah, I think if you have contacts with a senior manager or senior management of a reasonable sized company, content is still one of the most unique variables in the corporate market, either for B2B targets or B2C. And it's really expensive for companies to create content. I mean, really, really expensive. If you have clients or you have a target market where the content you're writing is really valuable, offering that book up in a sort of bulk deal to a client, either for their own employees or for partners or frankly for customers, is a fantastic incentive. I'll give you an idea. Generally, if you want someone to download a piece of content from a website, you're going to spend 20% of the money on the content, maybe 40% of the money on the content, and then you can spend 60% of money on distribution. If you can literally have pre-packaged content you can give somebody, they're ripping out an enormous portion of the cost of doing stuff, and they're giving something away, if it's published properly, that's highly valuable. And that type of intellectual gift, which is what a book should be, is fundamentally cheaper than a company trying to create its own content that doesn't look independent, hasn't had years in the creation, and isn't necessarily going to be a sort of sticky magnet for either customers or employees. So really think hard if you have corporate business customers, how can your content, your book, be used by them to help drive other business in their ecosystem, not just sell books. And you can sell thousands of books like this because it instantly makes a client, if it's a good book, look credible, thoughtful, and investing in the vision of the future.
And do you have any specific strategies that you use to be able to make this happen? I know you mentioned you contact the senior level management. So what were some tactics that you used specifically to be able to make those deals?
Well, I think there are two basic things. You have to have both. One doesn't do with the other. You have to have some relationships in large companies. You can't just suddenly go there and say, hey, I've got a book, do you want it? It's too painful. I think secondly, depending on the subject matter, and this is important, what I wrote about was a $2 trillion industry this year. I mean, it's the size of the Italian economy. And actually it's estimated to be 30 trillion in 2030, which is the size of India and China's economies right now. You've got to have big subjects. You've got to be able to have that vision-based book. Books on negotiation, books on selling, books on management, all have a very high sort of stickiness in that corporate market. But you have to have both the vision in the book and you have to have contacts. If you have neither, it's super difficult to do. It really is.
And what would you suggest for those people out there that don't necessarily have those contacts? Any strategies that you'd recommend?
Well, I think a couple of strategies. First of all, write the book, all right? Get it out there with free copies and distribute as many copies as you can to likely targets and hope when they read it, which I hope they do, they go, wow, this is really cool. Yep. I'd like to get it out. So if you're writing a book for dentists, whatever, on customer management, get as many dentists as possible to read it, to give you positive feedback on the book, load it up on Amazon, but just give you that sense of case study evidence or case study energy that's sort of like a Rotten Tomatoes score that can lead you to make it happen. It takes a while, but it's really worth the investment if you believe in your ideas. Pick some customers, pick some people you know, even pick a target. Say, look, I'll give you 10 copies of the book. Can you, if you like it, come and give me a review. That can be a really good natural energy. You can join community groups. You can go to LinkedIn. There's plenty of stuff on Facebook. You just say, hey, here's the filter of people I want to go to, then offer it. And I think digital copies of the books are a really unique way of doing this. It's instant, it's very low cost, and then you can hold back hard copies when you want it. But except one thing, for all the outreach you will do, maybe 5 to 10% of people actually read the book and get back to you.
Yeah.
So just because you send it doesn't mean they're going to read it. And people's egos, and mine was offended too, and it didn't happen, can be bad. So you really just have to push those boundaries.
Yeah, because the one that you do hit, I consider it like wildcatting with oil. When you hit, you hit.
And when you don't, you don't. And you've got to get comfortable. I interviewed a great writer called Safi Bakal, who wrote a book called Loon Shots about what it takes to thrive with experimentation.
Yep.
You have to be very happy with failure. You have to love failure because exactly of that sort of oil derrick model, one or two will hit and that was enough.
Exactly. Sales 101, right?
It's a tough piece of psychology, though, because unlike a product you may sell, when you write a book, it feels like a child.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that child to be rejected.
That is true. Well, speaking of books, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, I think I have two favorite books. Well, actually 5, but I'll get you down to the real one. The real one I have is called The Web of Life by Frishoff Capra, and it was a book I read in the late 90s, actually about chaos theory. It was really an understanding of what it took to see patterns and sort of shapes of the future in sort of edge examples now. And I've always liked it because to me, in a sort of highly volatile, changing world, seeing patterns based on historical tendency is not the way to go. You have to be able to understand fractal dynamics and patterns. And I've always found that to be my central anchor when writing content or doing, podcasts at Forbes, is always to remember that concept that tradition is really the illusion of permanence, but you can see patterns and stuff emerging in front of you.
Excellent. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
I think my favorite quote in life is one of my wives, which is tradition is the illusion of permanence. And I think that is probably the best statement for us to wake up every morning with, which is what's going to change, how can I be part of that change, and what do I have to do to lean into the future, not sort of anchor into the past.
Excellent. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, you can certainly email me. I'm always happy to handle any emails. That's michael@inc.digital. So any of your prospective bookmakers or individuals looking for some advice, totally happy to give it away because I've been on that journey. I think the best place, frankly, is LinkedIn. I have a pretty strong LinkedIn profile there. And so email and LinkedIn are the best ways of getting hold of me.
Michael, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Great, and I think what you offer is a really interesting service, so thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.